Well, we're talking about futsal stuttering in the United States. There's plenty of topics on this. There's one that I've been putting off for a long time, as many of you are probably aware if you follow the channel at all, either on our Discord or here through our traditional videos and live streams. But it continues on other regions of the United States. What are we talking about here? We're talking about the World Futsal League. The World Futsal League was announced in October of 2022. They had given us promise of a league in the summertime in the United States, which is somewhat unusual. It got very exciting as we were about to have futsal nearly year-round here in the United States in some region of the country. And it was a league that looked promising. It looked like there was a fairly experienced ownership group that boasted decades of experience amongst them. And as it turns out, how hard is it to start a league here in the United States? Must be pretty tough. It looks like the league has not taken off. We have not heard a single thing out of this ownership group or out of any of the social medias for WFL since the initial announcement, and a couple of teaser comments with some of their fans about what teams would and would not be involved based on the original statement that announced and promised a men's and women's league to start things off. Why is this so important? Well, at the time of the announcement in October, this would have been the first women's league in the United States. Now, as some of you that follow the channel may be very well aware, a women's league did come up in the NFPL. We saw 4 founding teams from the NFPL. Then it found yet again a women's division. It took off. The WFL announced it right before the season had begun. A lot of promise there for the women's game as well as the men's game in a part of the country we didn't currently have a league. These teams are based out of the southern states, the southeastern states, including Florida, Fayetteville, and Central Florida were 2 of the teams, Tampa Bay, another, Memphis. And then they came over from an existing indoor arena soccer league that had additional teams in it as well. So it looked like there may be room for growth through these ownership groups, possibly diversifying their indoor teams into futsal teams. Could be a number of reasons for this. Maybe they see futsal as an opportunity. Maybe it's a way to keep players within the team and keep them fit all year round. You know, at this level of futsal and indoor and soccer and arena soccer typically falls into a semi-pro type position on the ladder, most comparable to maybe what an NPSL is for outdoor football here in the United States, or maybe non-conference football in England. But there's really just not anything else coming out of there. What I also found interesting was digging into the indoor league, knowing that it existed. One of the other exciting moments for us was the fact that the indoor arena league was actually streaming their games and putting out great video packages. It looked like this was going to be a polished product. You guys have heard Luke and I talk on the channel before about needing some competition amongst leagues. A rising tide raises all ships. Maybe this will encourage other leagues to step up their game as well. But unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be the case. And you may be able to point to the NISL, the National Indoor Soccer League, which is run by the same ownership group, who stuttered at the end of their season and had what appears to be an absolute breakdown. Judging from the comments on their Twitter page, it looks like there was a lot of contention amongst the fans, a lot of angst, and it looks like the last several games of the season that became a very unruly league. There was lots of suspensions amongst coaches and players from fights and foul play. And I don't know if this is the reason, because the NISL never did confirm or deny the reason behind their decision on this, but they did cancel their postseason playoffs for their arena soccer league. Now, I know I've told you guys since video number 1 that I don't like to talk about arena soccer here on the channel. There's a number of reasons for that. Number 1, I'm just not that interested in it anymore. It is what caught my attention as a child and really made me fall in love with soccer as a kid, following one of my idols to this day, who is still coaching me now to be a coach, when as a kid he mentored me to be a good player. So I've kind of followed in his footsteps. There is a place for arena soccer. It is very popular here in the United States, but seeing that fail surely was concerning, and maybe that's why the WFL did not take off. One can only speculate, since they did not give us an official reason why. They just announced that the regular season champions were the champions of the league. You can see that a few comments made it through on their Twitter page before it looks like the NISL shut it down with a lot of negative comments that were coming through. Since the time I originally saw this post, I believe some of the comments have been taken down. I don't know if that's by the posters or the recipient of NISL, maybe filtering through some things, but they currently have their posts filtered so that only mentioned parties can comment on the posts about the postseason. Very interesting stuff. Looks like there was a lot of complaints within the comments. I don't know if this is just your typical Twitter pessimism, or if where there's smoke, there's fire. But at any rate, we are not going to see the WFL as it appears today. I can only assume that this is a failed attempt to launch a league, since we have heard absolutely nothing from their camp. Another thing that's interesting is I did reach out to the league when they first announced their intent. And unfortunately, guys, I got to own up and say that I dropped the ball. I had an opportunity to bring one of their executives on for Futsal News Live, and unfortunately dropped the ball and did not follow up in an appropriate time. I followed up since then, prior to all of the noise and drama that came through their playoffs, and did not hear anything back. I reached out one more time afterwards, and unfortunately was not able to make contact with the WFL to see what is next for that league. Is it postponed? Is it canceled? Does it even exist anymore? Very interesting that we're not hearing anything at all out of that camp, out of either leagues. So can only imagine it's another failed attempt at futsal in the United States. But hopefully someone is able to prove me wrong on that. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to do a video with you guys later in the year that says, hey, I screwed up. Here's the right information. So if anyone knows of any of the folks down there in that Southeastern League, that NISL or WFL, that can shed some light and some clarity on what the future of futsal is for those teams, I would love to hear from them and set the record straight. But in the meantime, what do you guys think about this? The United States has seen a lot of failed leagues come and go, whether it's failing out of the gates or being too aggressive with the approach and not being able to maintain a team or a league in the long term. We've seen teams fail because of COVID. We've seen a lot. We've seen leagues fail because of COVID, that it had to shut down and never came back to fruition. What do you guys think is the true issue here? And what do you think it's going to take to get some healthy leagues in the United States? Make sure you sound off in the comments below and let us know what you think about this existing league with WFL, and what you think about is holding back other leagues from forming across the United States. I look forward to hearing what your guys' opinion is on this topic. And until I do, I hope you play with your soul.